As a dentist, Tony Collins knows a fair bit about pain, but it's his passion for ultra-marathons that has given him a real insight into what the body can endure. In less than 2 weeks, he'll embark on his 4th Westfield Sydney to Melbourne race, and he's already bracing himself for the agony that's sure to come.
People think of the feet and maybe the legs, but I've found that I have a lot of problem inside my mouth. I mean, the mouth, the ulcers, or my palate, my tongue gets to about twice the size, and eating on the run all the time for a week, you keep on biting your tongue and your tongue swells and you bite it some more.
Tony finished 10th in last year's event, but has his sights set much higher this time thanks to the new handicapping system that will be used.
I'm not too distressed by my handicap. I've got 12 hours, which means that I'll be giving a 100-kilometre start to just over half the field, but that half of the field I think that I can beat. The other half of the field that I'd have more trouble with, well, I've got 12 hours on them.
But it won't be visions of glory that fuel Tony's feet during those torturous days on the road. His 3 previous runs have raised almost $100,000 for cancer research at the Camperdown Children's Hospital, and he hopes his dental peers will add another $30,000 to that total by supporting his latest effort.
If you see something that really distresses you and you can't do anything about it, that's pretty tough. But if you can do something about it, that's pretty motivating, and that's my fuel.
It was way back on the 20th of May 1987 that the former Balmain and Australian player was unveiled to the Newcastle public as the coach of the newly formed Newcastle Knights for the following 3 years. Last year, the board extended his term in office by a further 12 months, and this week showed more confidence in Alan McMahon by appointing him until the end of the 1993 season.
We've done nothing but progress up the ladder since Alan joined the club 4 years ago, and also by ensuring our strengths are there for the next 2 years in the coaching area with both Alan McMahon and Alan Bell. I think we might have given a few other clubs who have problems in the coaching area further problems to think about.
In his 3 years and 7 rounds at the helm of the Newcastle Knights, McMahon's record stands at 32 wins, 34 losses and an amazing 6 draws. The club's been fined $1,000 for an outburst over a refereeing performance, and he's taken the Knights to the edge of the final 5 last year. 3 seasons of memories and hard slog.
We have some terrific memories from the team, and hopefully a lot more to come, and I'm sure we will have. And I like the way in which we've had guys that's come to the club and they've improved their football careers, and I think it's a great feather in their cap to get representative honours, as it is for Mike McLean next Wednesday night in the Queensland State of Origin, as it has been for Mark Sargent, as it has been for Mike Hagan, Ashley Gordon and Mark Lamble of late in the Country Origin. And I think that's a tremendous tribute to the club about the advancement of their players through the representative ranks in such a short time.
And like all coaches, the one day they live for as much as the players is the last Sunday in September at the Sydney Football Stadium, the grand final.
That's the ultimate goal, and that's been the goal ever since we first started with the club. And, in that period of time, there's been certain rules that have changed with the league. For instance, salary cap wasn't here at the stage. The draft system wasn't in effect. Interchange, as we know it today, wasn't here. So as the game progresses and the rules change, you must do as well. So hopefully we're doing that, and hopefully with the results and the success of our younger guys coming through, then the club will be a strength for years to come.
There has been that the parties concerned, except Connors, who have said they accept the decision.
Meredith will add the firepower needed to the midfield as he takes up the reins in Newcastle. Last year's leading scorer with the Brisbane Lions, the 23-year-old boasts a stinging left foot and a reputation as one of Queensland's outstanding players over the past 4 seasons. And he's adamant that he wants to return to the National League.
I've virtually severed most of my ties with Brisbane. I've left my employment down there and I'm going to start work down here, so I'm moving everything down here, so I'm looking to stay here.
And making a return to play for his hometown Newcastle is David Lowe, a fully fledged Socceroo and NSL star with Marconi. Although not cleared by the Sydney club as we went to air, Lowe is hopeful he'll be on the park tomorrow. Long-term commitments with Austral are another thing.
Well, my contract's up this year, obviously, but I mean, I've had 7 good years there, so it's a decision that I can't take lightly. I'd have to weigh up all the options before I thought about it, really.
The underlining factor is where he should play to enhance his stay in the Australian team.
I think it's got to be an influence because that's what every player aims for. I think it's probably, to be realistic, it's a lot harder to make it, say, from an area like Newcastle rather than, say, Sydney or Melbourne.
Three new players made their debut for the club today: David Lowe from Marconi, Nick Meredith from Brisbane and Scott O'Donnell from Melita. In one of their only chances of the day, Gabby O'Carroll hit the crossbar in the 8th minute for Manly, but from there on it was all Austral. The old firm combined to put the first goal on the board. Jones a beautiful ball to Lowe, and his superior skills enabled him to cross to Ralph Mayer, and it was 1-0. Meredith then showed his class when he laid on a magnificent ball for Mayer, who had moved up, and the number 8 scored his and BHP Austral's second of the afternoon. It should have been 3-0 when Dean McWhirter stole the ball in his own half and then beat the defence hands down to open up a huge gap. He only had the keeper Prentice to beat, and he chipped the ball with Prentice just getting a hand to it. It still looked home, but Rothwell somehow cleared off the line and it was 2-0 at the break. The second half was all Austral. Meredith looked to have scored from a good volley, but offside was ruled. But only moments later, Bobby Namoff passed to Darren Stewart and he finally did something he threatened to do all day, and that was score. Nick Meredith was rewarded for persistence when he hooked onto a Namoff pass, and Austral led 4-0 and were playing superbly. And they weren't finished, as a quick breakout from the back saw Namoff with the ball once again, on to Darren Stewart, then to Ralph Mayer, and Mayer was there to knock it away for his hat-trick and Austral's 5th.
Control of the civil section at Williamtown is being offered to the Newcastle and Port Stephens councils as joint tenants. The rationale is that such local control will mean better marketing of this region's tourism potential. The study announced today will form the basis for negotiations between the federal government and the two councils concerned.
If the councils are satisfied as to the economic viability of the proposal, they've indicated to us they will proceed. If they're not, well, the airport at Williamtown will remain substantially as it is.
But that won't happen if the enthusiasm shown so far is carried through. The study will include possible extensions all round to car parking, the runway to accommodate 737s and the terminal building, and a rough time frame is in place.
It will take, I imagine, a couple of years before anything really actually happen in bricks and mortar terms, but I would say somewhat less than a year for a decision to be made, and I'm quietly optimistic about it.
News of the study was released by the chairman of the Federal Task Force for the Hunter, member for Shortland, Peter Morris, during a media tour of the Newcastle Customs House building. Mr Morris also announced $3.5 million in repairs now that the heritage building has been strengthened following the earthquake. The government is now calling for expressions of interest nationwide on how the landmark can be put to better public use.
One could think of a whole mood of uses, but let's see them come back. The most important thing is the building be put to higher value use and much more effective use than it has been in the past, and that be available to the people of this region to whom it belongs.
It's just after 5:30 at a cold and damp Broadmeadow racecourse, and amongst the quiet hustle and bustle, a trainer gives final instructions to his jockey.
Go half pace from the mile, 3/4 from the 1400, and let him come a working gallop down the runner.
Not unusual, except that trainer John Deemer's hoop is his son, 15-year-old St Pius the 10th high school student Jason. Jason acquired his licence to ride in December and has since had a stunning run of success with 13 winners, 7 seconds, 9 thirds and 8 fourths. April the 27th at Broadmeadow, it was Jason Deemer Day as he landed 3 winners. And that outstanding form has made one old jockey very happy.
It's the greatest thrill I've ever had in my life. I never thought I'd ever see a grandson ride, to tell the truth, but I admire him. I'm proud of him.
Also a former jockey and now horse trainer John Deemer is determined to keep Jason's feet firmly on terra firma, but admits that Jason's form has surprised even him.
We were happy that he could ride a couple of winners, but we didn't think he would go this well, and he's done it, but he hasn't done it once. He's done it twice now as a riding the double and the triple. Well, it really topped it off.
But the law, according to the Deemer household, is an education first, racing second. Encouraged to do well at both by his mum Chris and sister Donna, who are also part of the business, the Year 10 student at St Pius X at Adamstown says the regimentation of a 5 a.m. start and late night finish is a breeze. And it's not too hard to guess his ambition.
Probably to win the Golden Slipper before I'm 17.
Australs opened well and Troy Halpin was on the end of a Dean McWhirter pass and the youngster didn't let him down with a fine finish. Mount Pritchard then took over the match and deserved the equaliser 4 minutes from full time. From the corner the ball was headed towards the goal and Jason Aldridge did the rest and the match was tied at 1-1. BHP Austral stepped up a gear in overtime, Mayer in the thick of the action, latching onto a magnificent pass from teenager Adam Leatherborough, and the experienced Mayer made no mistake. Leatherborough finished off Mount Pritchard with brilliant individual skills, underlining the huge raps the club has on him. He beat the goalkeeper pointless, and BHP Austral had advanced to round 2 of the Waratah Cup.
What's in a name? To Aileen St John, it's everything. In 1969, this oval at Whitebridge was named the Eric St John Oval. Eric, Aileen's late father, was secretary of the Charlestown Sub-Junior Rugby League. It was his idea to convert an old garbage tip into an oval for schoolboy football.
If it wasn't for my father, they wouldn't have an oval to play on, would they?
But just a few months ago, the club renamed the park Brambles Field after a generous $5,000 donation from the equipment company, including a further $3,500 a year sponsorship. The Junior League, which had been going broke, was back in the black.
As I say, it was a godsend, from Brambles.
And without the Brambles money?
Well, no more club.
The oval is leased by the Junior League from the Crown. To officially name an area of Crowned land, it must go through the Geographical Names Board. But the board hasn't even heard of Brambles Field, or for that matter, St John's Oval. And in the event of any debate over naming rights, a spokesperson said historical significance plus public feelings would outweigh any commercial concerns. Late today, a compromise suggested by the club was to name the park surrounding the oval the St John Memorial Ground. But as the war wages at Whitebridge, how sacred are other ovals in the area? Most, such as Harker, Townsend, Carl and Lyle Peacock, all named after local identities, lie solely under council control. Both Newcastle and Lake Macquarie councils admit in theory commercial names could be submitted, with council having the final say. In an era where football clubs are reliant on financing from outside sources, naming rights could become a vital issue.
The South Newcastle Lions are undefeated so far this season with 5 wins from as many matches, scoring 133 points, 23 against the Western Suburbs Rosellas last week in a resounding victory. But the Jones boy is far from happy.
We played quite well in patches, but then we let ourselves down in patches, so that concerns me a little bit, but we're still getting the points on the board and that's all that matters.
Souths have a well-balanced side with a tough, uncompromising pack, backed up by plenty of experience and pace out wide that has the ability to turn defence into attack. For the Cheetahs, who are only 2 points behind the Lions in the Tooheys Cup competition with 4 wins and 1 loss, Sunday's match is a real test as to their chances of back-to-back premierships.
The first game against Lakes, we did cop a bit of a hiding, but we didn't have those players there, and I think this will be definitely the first test. Souths are on a roll, and we've got to come up with the goods.
And the Waratah side is looking formidable, with former Knights players Darren Slocky and James Goulding adding huge depth to a young outfit, something that hasn't missed the attention of Jones.
That's right, as you mentioned, those 2 players are class players, and Craig Higgins is our country representative and Newcastle 5'8", so we're going to have to be strong all around the park. But our defence has been our standing point this year. We've set ourselves a standard in defence, and we're matching that consistently each week.
Meanwhile, Souths are anxiously awaiting the outcome of the Newcastle Rugby League's hearing into an incident in last weekend's match between West and the Lions, with Steve Power being questioned about his alleged part in Michael Reed's jaw being shattered in a second-half tackle. The judiciary met at 5:30 and proceedings are continuing. From the outset, Ninnis was on target, and even the big fellow Tony Roddleson made long bombs, and at quarter time the Spectres already led by 17. Jerry Everett started the second term in fine fashion and combined well with his teammates to temporarily stem the tide. But Uthoff steadied the ship and the Spectres led by 11 at half-time. Both teams traded baskets in the third term, but the Falcons were making plenty of blunders. Bruce Bolden turned defence into attack. And on the buzzer, Al Green found the range. Ahead by 17 at the last change, the Spectres went into overdrive with Uthoff and Ninnis working wonders. The Falcons had no answers and the coaching staff were lamenting a performance best forgotten. A full replay of the match on NBN at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow.
The dispute over changing work practices escalated last week when 3 workers at the New Dell washery were retrenched. At 7 o'clock the following morning, the entire workforce at New Dell and Howick went out in support of their colleagues. The men were to meet this afternoon with a recommendation to go back to work at 3 o'clock, but the dispute took a dramatic turn this morning.
The company have engaged a firm of couriers and have delivered notices to our 330 members that they've all been terminated as a result of the current stoppage.
According to the notices, the 330 employees were dismissed for misconduct, but the unions say it goes far deeper than that.
We would have expected that the company would have sought orders for us to resume work. Now, when they didn't seek those orders, obviously the unions thought that they must have been up to something, and I suppose our fears were realised this morning when they've decided to go ahead and sack all their people.
Since CRA Mining took over the Howick operations from BP Coal, negotiations with the unions over changing work practices have been underway. But last week the company indicated those talks weren't progressing quickly enough and decided to take matters into its own hands.
I believe that they've decided that their chances of getting what they want through arbitration aren't good. So they've provoked a situation where they can try and blame the unions for the current state of their operations.
The unions will seek an urgent hearing with the Coal Industry Tribunal where they will ask to have the 330 workers reinstated. General Manager of the Howick operations, John Pegler, refused to speak to us about the dismissals. In fact, no one except mine management has been allowed inside the mine since early this morning. The gates are padlocked and an outside security firm is ensuring no one goes in. Late this afternoon, however, the company released a statement saying that since October there has been no measurable improvements in productivity and work practices, despite continued talks with the unions. Further, efforts to improve the mine's international competitiveness have been unsuccessful, and the owners will not continue to operate the mine at a loss. Jodie McKay, NBN News.